All right, problem 2. We are now going to solve using synthetic division. I think this one might be a little bit easier even for synthetic division purposes. The polynomial x to the third plus 7x squared minus 38x minus 240 expresses the volume in cubic inches of the shadow box. So length, width, and height. And we know volume. Maybe we want to put that on there. That's the length times the width times the height. What are the dimensions of the box? Hint, the length is greater than the height or the depth. Okay, we can do this. So here's what we know. The length is greater than the height or the depth. So we know that the width, let's go ahead and just make this like the W. There we go, is x plus 5. So oddly enough, that we're not going to get numbers yet for the length, the width, and the height. We're just going to get like expressions, not numbers, but expressions. So we can already say the width is x plus 5. All right, so here's what I know about volume, and I know you guys know this too. I know volume is length times the width times the height. So if I get rid of the width, if I kind of get rid of the width, that will give me the length and the height. Well, let's use synthetic division to do that. I know that x plus 5 is the width. So if I do synthetic division, let's go over here. Let's do x plus 5 is 0. X would be negative 5. If I do synthetic division with negative 5, I'm going to be able to get an expression for the length and the height together. So let's take a look at our expression up here. So my coefficients are 1, 7, negative 38. I'll do 1, 7, and negative 240. And there's nothing that's going to be 0. Like I have an x cubed, then I have an x squared, then I have an x, then I have a constant. So my numbers for synthetic division are going to be 1, 7, negative 38, and negative 240. So all I'm doing right now is I'm going to do volume divided by width so that I get the length and the height together. Let's play out our synthetic division. So like I did in the problem above, the 1 drops down. I multiply it with the negative 5. Well, 1 times negative 5 is negative 7, or is negative 5. Sorry about that. Now I'm going to add going up and down. So 7 and negative 5 makes 2. Now I'm going to do 2 times negative 5. 2 times negative 5 is negative 10. Now I'm going to add those two. Negative 38 and negative 10 makes negative 48. Now I'm going to multiply negative 5 and negative 48. Negative 5 times negative 48 is positive 240 with a remainder of 0. Now the fact that we have a remainder of 0 is really good because if we didn't have a remainder of 0, then the width wouldn't be a factor of the volume, and that would be bad. So we got a remainder of 0, so thumbs up on that. The minus 48 is the constant. The 2 is the linear portion, and the 1 is the quadratic portion. So it doesn't really look like that was super duper helpful, but what we have here is an expression for the length and the height together. So whether you factor by grouping or whether you factor by using the box, I'm going to encourage you to please pause the video and try to factor. Welcome back. I hope that you factored that, whether it's grouping or box, and you should have got an x plus 8 and an x minus 6, no matter what method you picked. So the question becomes, how was that helpful at all? Because one of those is the length and one of them is the height. So let's read the directions. The length is bigger than the height. Okay, well, which one of these will be bigger? Probably this one, right? Because it's a plus 8 versus this one is a minus 6. So I'm going to label this as the length. I'm going to label this as the height. And remember what the width was, everybody? The width was x plus 5. So it did not ask us to get a number. for the width, the length, the width, and the height. It's just an expression. So the length is x plus 8, the height is x minus 6, and the width is x plus 5. Pretty cool. Now it says, what if the width, the W, is 15? What are the other two dimensions? This is not a problem. We totally have this. So it says the width is 15. Well, if the width is 15, that means that x plus 5 from the problem above is 15, which means x, take away 5, is 10. So if I can say the width is 15 inches, then I guess I could say the length, which was x plus 8, I can replace x with 10. So the length is 18. Now let's do the width, or excuse me, the height. The height was x minus 6, replace x with 10. 10 minus 6 is 4. And that makes sense for a shadow box, especially if we kind of visualize this, the height of a shadow box being 4, like if that's how deep it is. That's great. Very good. Now, part 2, let's check and see if something's a factor. Ready? The short and the sweet of it is this. If the remainder is 0, then yes, it's a factor. If the remainder is not 0, then no, it's not a factor. So you really want to see a remainder of 0. Now, as we move on to problem 3, we have, is x squared plus 1 a factor of 3x to the 4th, da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. If it is, write it as the product of its factors. So we need to do division, and we need to see if we get a remainder of 0. Now, I do have a tiny little question here, and it says, can we do synthetic on this problem? And I'm really sorry to say, no, not for where we're at right now. Because that's an x squared, we're not going to be able to do synthetic. I can do, if it was just x plus 1, then yeah, we could do synthetic with a -1. But unfortunately, guys, it's an x squared, so we're going to have to do long division. That's a no. So I know long division is a little more tedious, but we totally have this. So let's put x squared plus 1 on the outside. And on the inside of our divisor bar, 3x to the 4th minus 4x to the 3rd plus 12x squared, but watch this, everybody, plus 0x, just in case, plus 5. See how there was a linear term missing? We need to make it a 0. All right, let's see how we do. So the question, long division does this. 3x to the 4th divided by x squared. So this divided by that, well, that would be a 3x squared. So that's what goes on the top of the line to begin with. You could also say, what does x squared need to become 3x to the 4th? It needs a 3 and it needs an x squared. So however you can understand that. Now we're going to backwards distribute there and put it underneath the ones that it matches. So 3x squared times x squared is 3x to the 4th. So I put it under the quartic term. 3x squared times positive 1 is 3x squared. Please look at where I'm writing that. I'm matching up the squared with the squared. Now, I am going to erase these blue lines because I'm going to need to draw other lines at some point, other point in time. That's my cat sneezing. Sorry. I need to change my signs here. So change, change. And now I'm going to combine. So these cancel. And if those don't cancel, you've done something wrong. Bring down the negative 4x cubed and 12x squared minus 3x squared is 9x squared. Bring down the 0x and the plus 5. Remember, the 0x is kind of like holding the x spot in case we need it. Now I'm going to change back to red. I need to know 4x cubed divided by x squared. 4x cubed divided by x squared is going to give me a 4 and an x. That's what goes up here. A positive 4. Oh, excuse me, a negative 4, huh? Because that was a negative 4x cubed. And it needs, okay, that's it. So you could, maybe you don't like the way that I did that, like how you divide it to see what you need. You could say this, x squared needs what to become negative 4x cubed? Well, it would need a 4, it would need a negative, it would need a 4, and it would need another x. So that's why the answer is negative 4x. All right, now I'm going to change to blue and backwards distribute. So here to here and here to here. Negative 4x times x squared is negative 4x squared, or x to the third. Negative 4x to the third. Negative 4x times positive 1 is negative 4x. Now look, I'm not going to put that here because that's the squared column. I had to put negative 4x here. Thank goodness, right, that I had that like that 0x in there. Otherwise, I wouldn't know where to put it. I changed to purple, and I need to remember to change my signs. So because you have to subtract whatever you get. So subtracting changes this to a plus and changes this to a plus. I'm going to erase these blue lines because I feel like if I don't, they're going to get confusing. If this isn't already confusing enough, right? So negative 4x cubed plus 4x cubed cancels. 9x squared comes down, 4x comes down, and 5 comes down. Whew, I promise we're almost done. So I'm going to change to red, and I need to focus on 9x squared with x squared. What is 9x squared divided by x squared? Just a 9. Therefore, I need to write plus 9 up here. Now, if you don't like the way I did that, you could say, what does x squared need to become 9x squared? And the answer is a positive 9. All right, now I'm going to backwards distribute like this and like this. And that gives me positive 9x squared with a positive 9. Notice how I'm lining it up on the ones that match. My handwriting is getting bigger. Whenever that happens, you know that we're almost done. Change to purple. So I remember to subtract my answers, which essentially changes their signs. These cancel. 4x minus 4 comes down. Now, oddly enough, that's the end because x squared cannot go inside of an x term. So this has a very odd remainder. This remainder is not 0. So I'm going to write remainder not 0. So this is not a factor. I'm done. That's what we're essentially trying to get at. All right, problem 4. Is x minus 2, hopefully you're still with me because this one's going to be easy. Easier. Is x minus 2 a factor of x to the 5th minus 32? If it is, write it as the product of its factors. Can we do synthetic? This is a linear term, right, to the first power. So yes, because it's just x minus 2. It's not x squared minus 2. So I'm going to draw my little box. And if I had x minus 2, I would need, for synthetic division, you have to pretend like it's equal to 0 so that you know to use a positive 2 inside of your box. Now, this is x to the 5th, right? So I would need a 0x to the 4th, a 0x to the 3rd, a 0x squared, a 0x, and then my minus 32. So watch me set up synthetic division. I'll change my color so it doesn't blend in. So I have, and I'm even going to move this down so I have a little more room. So I have a 1 in front of my x to the 5th. I have a 0 in front of my x to the 4th. I have a 0 in front of my x to the 3rd, a 0 in front of my x squared, a 0 in front of my x, and my constant is 32. If you're wondering, do you need all those zeros? Yes, indeed you do. Drop down the 1, multiply 2 times 1. Add 0 and 2. Multiply 2 and 2. Add 0 and 4. Multiply 4 and 2. Add 0 and 8. Multiply 8 and 2. Add 0 and 16. multiply 16 and 2. Add negative 32 and 32. This is your remainder. So the question is, because your remainder is 0, you can say yes. Oops. It is a factor. So that's the first part. You have to say yes. The second part says write it as the product of its factors. So that would mean that x to the 5th minus 32 is equal to the x minus 2 we divided by and our answer. Ooh, let's check out our answer. This is the constant. This is the x. This is the x squared. This is the x cubed. This is the x to the 4th. So when I write it, I would write 1x to the 4th plus 2x to the 3rd plus 4x squared plus 8x plus 16. And remember, its remainder was 0. So, yay, that was fun. Part 3. Maybe I'll do this on a separate video.